level of environmental concern among Calatagueños and put an end to dynamite fishing. For 6 years, the event attracted about 30 local fishermen, some as young as 16, the oldest over 70 years old. With Mr. Warren's untimely death in January of 2010, this year's Bankathon has become a memorial, organized by conservation volunteers. Exclusive to Calatagan fishermen, Bankathon is a challenging 10-kilometer race in a handmade bangka. On non-race days, these are fishing boats. Today, they're racing vessels. The defending champion is Louis Macalalad, who has won the race 2 years in a row. He's a tough competitor who neither smokes nor drinks and trains daily. It's a grueling 45 minutes of steady rowing at top speeds of 4.5 knots per hour. Louis grabs the title again this year and marks his 3rd consecutive victory. In colonial times, skill with a needle and thread was a sign of a well-brought-up young lady. In the historical town of Taal, the art of lace-making and embroidery still finds its place on lavish household linen and clothing. Linen bearing the technique known as calado is much sought after by the expat community and supporters of fair trade products. Intricate calado patterns are created by pulling out strands of thread, then stitching around them to create a mesh. Favored material like pineapple husi is too delicate for a machine, ensuring that stitching by hand is a well-preserved art. It can take 2 months to complete a tablecloth or barong, which can cost up to 10,000 pesos. Diosdado Ona's skill has earned him a YouTube video and visits from TV crews, journalists, and even an English professor. Mr. Ona is a blade maker. Not just any blade, because this is, after all, Batangas, home of the brave and home of the deadly balisong. The balisong takes its name from 2 words, bale, to break in two, and sungay, the deer horn traditionally used in the knife's handle. Also known as a fan knife, it opens with a flick of the wrist, the way a lady might flick open a Chinese fan. The handle folds back to conceal the deadly blade. Diosdado Ona knows his way around a knife and demonstrates for us quite cheerfully with deftness and grace. Mr. Ona's training knife is based on an original design which he has patented. The blunt edges make it perfectly safe for beginners. The finest steel makes the finest blades, able to pierce any surface and remain pristine. The handles are made of hard wood like nara and decorated with bone. A fan knife using imported Damascus steel can set you back nearly 7,000 pesos. Taal town used to be located a few miles away in what is now San Nicolas, on the shores of Taal Lake. Then Taal volcano erupted, and the town moved to its present location near Balayan Bay. It explains why this historic town is nowhere near the volcano or the lake that shares its name, and why Taal Basilica, originally built beside Taal Lake, is now found here. Basilica de San Martin de Tours, named for the patron of soldiers and of Taal. It's the largest Catholic church in Asia. It was built here in its present location in 1755 by an Augustinian priest, Diego Espina. The design as we see it today is mostly the work of a Spanish architect named Luciano Oliver, who completed it in 1878. It survived an earthquake in 1849 and damage from Japanese artillery during World War II. Despite the renovation spanning a couple of centuries and its mishmash of European influences, the basilica is imposing and breathtakingly beautiful and is a national treasure. Ancestral homes line the narrow streets of Taal town. This is Calle de Agoncillo, named for the prominent Taal family headed by Gregorio Agoncillo. The home of his wife Marcela, who made the first Philippine flag, is just down the street, and the house is today a museum. While some of these old homes are falling into disrepair, more of them are being rescued and restored to their former glory. Villa Tortuga has been brought lovingly back to life by costume designer Lito Perez. Renting it from its owners, Lito worked on the house for a year, furnishing it with his own period pieces and collectibles. History buffs wanting to savor the colonial atmosphere can even stay the night. Faro de Cabo Santiago. The words carry a musical cadence and a story. It's the name of a lighthouse built by Spanish engineers in 1890. Built of lime cement, much of the building is original, from its spiral iron staircase to the wooden louvered windows that invited cooling breezes from Calatagan Bay. The lighthouse of Cape Santiago guided the approach to Manila Bay, lighting up the Verde Island Passage, the San Bernardino Strait onto the southern route across the islands. She's no longer lit by kerosene lamps, of course, and is today solar-powered, but she holds fast to tradition. Antonio Coz Jr. is a third-generation lighthouse keeper. He follows his father Antonio and his grandfather Casimiro before him, all keepers during the lighthouse's storied past. Antonio, or June, recalls spending nights here as a boy and remembers well the stories told by his grandfather. It served as a garrison for Japanese troops in World War II. As American warplanes swooped in, Japanese soldiers, who had held June's grandfather and father captive, tried to escape via underground tunnel. These iron grills bear the scars of artillery fire. However, its living quarters and the kitchen building are whole and intact. One hopes that someday this valuable piece of history is fully restored. In the meantime, its legacy appears safe in the hands of its keeper. For a travel souvenir that bears your own style and perspective, collect stories of the people living in the place you're visiting. Travel portraits honor your subjects and the place. Bankathon 7 brought a festive atmosphere to a sleepy town. These students have been up since 5 a.m., but are eager to pose. In the historical town of Taal, the art of lace-making and embroidery is practiced still, finding its way into lavish household linen and clothing. Louis Makalalad may be Bankathon champion with a new motorbike, but here is the real prize. Jesse has picked up where Mr. Boo Warnes has left off. As project coordinator for Capo, he understands that a thriving, sustainable ocean means his family as a means of livelihood. Here's Jesse in front of his family's home. His father's fishing boat is called Breadwinner. His 12-year-old sister, Queen Elizabeth, studies on a scholarship. After giving a quick lesson on wielding a deadly weapon, blade maker and internet celebrity Justado Ona has no problem posing for a portrait in front of his shop. At the Basilica, candle vendors offer their wares and their prayers. Third-generation lighthouse keeper Antonio Cos Jr. guards Cape de Santiago Lighthouse, just as its beacon once protected sea vessels a century ago. It's a labor of love, and his passion shines brightly. Seaside trips mean harsh sunlight from about 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. That means defining shadows and flat light. Head indoors or look for open shade. Fortunately, Canon lenses lend a soft, artistic touch that many fine art photographers and portrait photographers just love. Overcast skies can give your colors a deep saturation because the clouds soften or diffuse sunlight. Also, clouds can add drama to a landscape photo. Travel photographers with good people skills find fulfillment in photographing people. If you're shy, try architectural shots and focus on a specific subject, like doors and windows. If you're chasing megapixel count without the bulk, the Canon Ixus 105 packs a 12.1 megapixel resolution, and it's roughly the size of a small cell phone. When shooting on the fly, you can rely on its automatic mode, but when you have the luxury of time, switch over to manual, so you can adjust everything from ISO to white balance and exposure levels. The Canon Ixus 210 gives you a 14.1 megapixel resolution with a choice of shooting modes on a touch-sensitive screen. You have your basic program functions for shooting in bright sunlight and low light, but it's an art photographer's dream. Options like color accent, which allows for black and white shots with selective color accents, and the fisheye effect minimize the need for post-editing.
My name is Arian Serafico. I'm 22 years old and I work in the Senate. I'm a new media specialist. I shoot videos, I take photographs. Aside from that, I also blog about my travels, a bit of fashion, and I'm also into design, graphic design, web design. Of course, part and parcel with writing comes photography because I really think that photos add a lot to my writing and my telling a story. And my weapon of choice is a Canon G11. To be honest, I'm kind of new to photography because my first love really is writing. But I started to realize that I wanted to incorporate photos, so I really wanted to get into photography a lot more so that when I blog about it, I could have the photos to tell people that, hey, I've been here, this is what happened, this is my story. Looking at my recent photos, it's mostly pictures of strangers, like on the subway or in the palaces that we visited, kids running around. I have a lot of pictures of families, children. I like taking pictures of strangers, basically. I think when you're choosing a camera, it's most